Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Idiots in the Wild. And thank you very much for joining me. First is, Can You Finish Please So My Kid Can Play? By D.L. Aert. Or Delert? So I'm not sure if I'm the entitled one here or the guy. It's definitely not you. But I was pretty sure I'm in the right. Bit of backstory. Went to this arcade place, Bury, UK. Today for the first time. Spent £30 for me and my son, and all the machines are free to play. You can stay 11 AM to 11 PM. That's a good deal. We got there at 4 PM. Place has 4 floors and 400 plus machines there. We go in, play a few machines. My son is 10, so I'm showing him games his old dad used to play when I was his age. We played Simpsons arcade game for 10 minutes, until my son gets bored. What's wrong with kids today? That's a classic. We see a Walking Dead gun game in a self-enclosed booth. Someone is playing it, so we entertain ourselves with Guitar Hero until it's free. We go in and select story mode. We get to stage 2, and this 7-year-old comes into the booth and says,
"Excuse me, can I play?"
I said, "Yes mate, in a bit, you can play next. We're currently playing it." We get to stage 3 and he asks again,
"Can I play now?"
I said, "Not just yet, buddy, we're playing it still." His dad appears to the side of the booth and asks him what's wrong. He then says to me, "How long do you plan on being on this? My son wants to play it." I say, "I don't know, we're on stage 3 now. I'm not sure how many stages there are, but he can play after us." "Oh, so you're just going to play it all the way then, and not give anyone else a go?" This man doesn't understand how games work, I think. "No, we're completing the story, then we'll play something else." "Why don't you go play something else and come back to it when we're finished with it?" "Because we would lose our progress and have to start again then, wouldn't we?" "Well, you've been on here 10 minutes now, and are hogging the game." "Oh god, 10 minutes, you monster." You know what, I'm on his side now, I think. Whew, I didn't know it was 10 minutes. I thought 7, 8, 9, not 10. Made me and my son feel awkward. So after stage 4, we said, shall we just play something else, and went up to the next floor. Entitled Dad was playing a bike racing game with his son. I didn't feel like going to tell him we finished. I hope someone else got it before him. Now yes, I know The Walking Dead probably isn't for my 10-year-old. I was watching zombie films when I was 10. It was fine. Only thing that scared me, but it was fine. But my dad let me play and watch those a lot worse when I was his age, see? Because our parents knew how it was done. But let's not tell the missus, okay? Is there some unwritten rule in arcade places where you can only spend 10 minutes on each machine and never complete them? Well, I think the problem here is that guy was just a massive, massive unrepentant wanker. You and your son were doing nothing wrong. You were using the facilities as intended. Doesn't sound like there was any signs posted telling you could only be on one game for a certain amount of time, and it's not unreasonable that you should be able to play a game to completion, however long that might take. Next up today is Karen wants me to commit a crime, make snowmobiles fly, and probably get the whole group killed, and this is by Helpful Tadpole. Oh, that was quite a headline now, wasn't it? Let me tell you the story. This story takes place in Abisko in northern Sweden, where a lot of my other stories have taken place. I have used a few of Helpful Tadpole's stories in other videos recently. You can look up this area on the map, but I will give you a quick description of the relevant geography. Abisko is in the northern end of a valley that runs north to south. The eastern side of the valley is pretty flat. Along the western side of the valley, there is a river going north-south, as well as it flows inside a fairly dramatic river canyon. It's not a huge canyon, but it does have a 5 to 15 meter tall sheer cliff walls, with the river on the bottom. To the west of the river, you have mountain slopes. The western half of the valley, including the river and the mountain slopes, are inside a national park. So the story begins proper. This takes place back in 2014. I was going out with a group for some aurora chasing with the snowmobiles. A couple of guests were driving their own machines while Karen and her friends opted to ride in the sled behind my snowmobile. We drive south on the village and along the edge of the national park. After a while, we stop at a nice open area with a great view and a clear night sky, as well as mountains surrounding the valley, as well as the large lake to the north. All in all, a great spot for aurora watching and photographing. When we stop, I notice that there is a little bit of aurora starting, so I tell everyone we will stay here for a bit and see what the aurora decides to do. Karen is now poking at her phone and waves me over and tells me we have to go over there, while pointing at the mountains on the western side of the valley. This has me a bit confused, and I ask her why. Because that's where the aurora is. Now do note that aurora happens about 100 kilometers, that's 1,538,461 fallow deer hoof prints, or so off the ground. So moving to the other side of the valley won't change any of that. As long as we have clear sky, the location won't really change the aurora. Of course, I tell Karen this, but she refuses to believe some stupid aurora guide when her phone has told her the secrets of the universe. Now, Karen shows me her phone with the map and a dropped pin showing the best area for spotting aurora in the region. The pin has been dropped on the side of the mountain Slatadjoka. I am so sorry, I looked it up, literally couldn't find a pronunciation, Googled didn't even have any results. In the middle of one of the most dangerous avalanche slopes in all of Scandinavia. It's an area every local knows to avoid like the plague in winter. That slope even killed several people heli-skiing last winter. And Karen wants us to put the snowmobiles there to get all buried under a massive amount of snow coming crashing down the side of the mountain. And to make it even more exciting, there is also the national park, which you are not allowed to drive a snowmobile inside apart from a couple of official trails. There is of course no trail to where Karen wants to go, and as icing on the cake, we would need to cross the previously mentioned river canyon. You know, the one with the sheer cliff walls and a fast-flowing river to the bottom. So, I just need to make the snowmobiles fly over there, I guess? Now, most sensible people would probably realize that what they just asked for was impossible. But not Karen. Karen expects to be served and not to hear excuses, and she literally tells me to stop making up dumb excuses and do my job and take them to the aurora. At this point, the aurora is starting to get a bit stronger, and I decide it's time to let Karen have a bit of a timeout. So I just tell her the aurora is getting stronger, and I walk over to some other guests to help them set up their camera. For the rest of the tour, she kept occasionally complaining that I was not a proper guide, and I didn't know anything about aurora, and I was an incompetent guide, who didn't use her amazing app for finding the best spots, and so on and so forth. I pretty much just ignored her and focused on the guests who were having a good time. When we got back, she complained a bit more, and apparently I would be lucky if I didn't get fired when she talked to my boss the next day. I called the owner of the hotel to let him know we were back safe and sound, and that we had a Karen. He just laughed and said she must be completely stupid. Apparently, she had showed up to reception the next day to complain and try to get me in trouble. How? Let's just say the owner was not impressed with Karen's phone app, and he basically told her to F off back to her home planet. See, that's the problem. They don't want them on their home planet, so they send them all here. The hotel did receive a 1-star review on Google, claiming we were all rude and incompetent. We all cried a solitary tear afterwards. And third story. The vest means you work here, right? By Particular Junket 288. Working construction, I always had people asking me where things are in the grocery store. Apparently wearing a high-vis vest in a grocery store means you work there, even if the rest of you is covered in mud from your work boots to your hard hat. I was always getting questioned for things in my local grocery store, and in part because I worked there before, and in another part because it was my local Walmart, and I knew where everything was, I didn't mind helping the odd old lady find something. But this day in particular, I was done. My excavator operator dug through a water main we were working on and flooded the whole job site. Good job, buddy. We were on site for 38 hours correcting it. It was a nightmare day. I stopped by Walmart on my way home for some dinner stuff, and this lady just goes,
Hey, boy!
Mind you, I'm 6'4" and over 30 years old, so hardly a boy. So bloody done. So I look over and give her the meanest, "The hell do you want?" look. This boy can. She missed the point.
Where are the breadcrumbs?
I grumbled. She sputtered,
I need to find them.
As her face got redder. Great. Use your eyes then. Cue the "I'm going to get your manager" routine. This little grouchy woman called me every name in the book and stamped her feet and her head like she was going to explode as she threatened to make sure I never work in another grocery store again. Oh, well, that would be a tragedy. I was just shaking my head going, "Go for it, get the manager." She storms off and comes back with a frazzled-looking dude, my old boss, who clearly just got an earful and knows full well I quit over a year prior. He looks up at me and just sighs. He went, "Ma'am, he doesn't work here." There was a beat, and you could tell by how red she got. She felt pretty stupid about the whole thing. But instead of just owning up to it, no, that'll never happen, and apologizing, she lost her mind at the manager and had to be escorted out by the police. For giggles, I brought some breadcrumbs to the checkout well within eyesight of her as she was hauled out. I swear she almost had an aneurysm. If you're going to be disrespectful and address someone as boy, even if they work there, you deserve to get screwed with. Even more so if they don't work here, lady. And fourth story today is We Have That in Common, My Dear, by Ableist Mage. I don't have the greatest memory, so here is my retelling of such an incident loosely mid-July. Some liberties have been taken, naturally. Browsing the aisles at the local small shart looking for my coveted Enid cereal, get approached by practically a perfect meme person of a Karen. Power business skirt, Rachel Green haircut, cloppy shoes. No hello, just blunt statements, passing for greetings now, I suppose.
"I'm looking for this cereal and I can't find it anywhere."
We have that in common, my dear.
Okay, so I need you to help me find it.
Hands on hips. Expectant look of disgust. Maybe if you offered to help me find the one I'm after, we could do yours next.
Except that's not my job.
We also have that in common.
Your customer service is really awful.
Another thing in common, who knew I would match so well to a Karen?
That's offensive. I want to speak to your manager.
And that's where we differ. You couldn't last.
Manager, now!
Good luck finding one. Your track record for locating store employees isn't that great so far.
I've had it with the attitude of the workers in this store. Ugh.
Well, this has been a real adventure, but I have more shopping to do as I walked away.
You're not walking away from me.
I am, in fact. Later, I'm in the pets department deciding on a new toy for puppers. And hear her aggressive clopping. Whether they were sensible business shoes or hooves, I didn't get a good look. And look up. Karen is walking my way on a mission, hips moving like a fashion model in fast forward, with an actual manager in tow. I think to myself, it's nice that she was able to locate a real one. Who knows how many innocents she accosted along that path to success.
And this one.
There were others.
I've had enough of your lip.
We have that in common, I say, looking at her, and then I up to the manager, who smirks.
I need you to take care of this,
she says to the manager. Ma'am, I told you, if you did this again, you'd be kicked out. This is also a customer. He touches something on his hip. Do you know if you sell Enid cereal yet? The manager, switching gears, says, Come back early August, we've been told they're coming, but we don't have them in yet. Slated for shelves sometime around then. Okay, thanks. Enid and I share a lot of personality quirks. Love her.
I can't believe you're just going to let this behavior continue. He's not helping anyone. What good is he to your store?
I look at the manager, who I catch the eye of, and with a smile, head tilt, indication to the Karen, We have that in common. Rent-a-Cop arrives on cue, body slams her into the floor, and she shatters into a million little globules of T-1000 goo, and each one morphs into miniature Karens, and they all begin screaming and toddler stomping in a high-pitched noise demanding a manager and something about customer service. That part might have been when the brownie kicked in? I'm not really sure how I got home. I appreciate your patience. I'm sorry you had to deal with this, says the manager. We have that in common. Again, I'm not sure if all that happened exactly like that. Some liberties were definitely taken. You might say that the Karen who had trouble grasping reality and I... well, you know the rest. And the fifth and final story for today is also by Ableist Mage. Blabbermouth repeats what I say incredulously. I am a vendor for a specific brand of grocery retail. Although I am stocking shelves at a given store with the brand of merch the brand makes, I am not employed by the store itself. Lots of brands of frozen pizzas, snack cakes, beer, wine, chips, energy drinks, sodas, snack crackers, pretzels, cookies, and more have vendors who stop in to certain groceries on a route, stock just their specific brand, and then leave to go to the next store and stock just that brand there, etc. This was one of the first incredulous types of I don't work here lady people I have encountered, who will repeat what you say to them as they walk away melodramatically, and then complain about you to someone else. Although it is a pretty brief encounter, I still remember this real special blabbermouth each time I encounter another one of this kind. I was kneeling down, stocking a low shelf with my brand of stuff, when a tallish man whips around the corner, pushing his cart toward me from the opposite end of the aisle with that look. That he's going to ask something. Now, 90% of the time, people who ask me questions are looking for something that isn't my brand. So I get I don't work here lady moments all the time, but most are pretty ordinary, oops, I'm sorry, with no drama involved. And I'm preparing my Swiss Army list of deflections. Blabbermouth then proceeds to open up into a miniature rant about how he has such trouble finding helpers in his place, which is clearly beneath him, and without letting me get a word in, demands I tell him where we keep the peanut butter, and he's already pushing his cart past me, out into the main aisle, about to turn in whichever direction I say. I was half expecting him to ask where the limousine service was to ferry him to each aisle. Since he's clearly not interested in the minutiae of why I can't help either, I just say, that direction, I think? A few aisles that way. He turns his cart that direction and pauses, and in the most melodramatic tone, he slowly repeats back to me what I said. That direction, you think a few aisles this way? I imagine him wobble his head like a woman with bouncy hair at the end of a shampoo commercial, flicking away a cluster to the side as he traipsed away. In the most high-horsed snob tone, he bellows for any passing peasant to hear. Unbelievable, the people they hire in this dump. And I call out back to him, I don't work for the store, bub. I later see him with a small entourage of actual employees crowded around him, as his loud voice carries, and he catches the eye of me and stops mid-sentence from his surely fascinating story, and then resumes his story in a much quieter tone. I catch the eye of a manager later, also still with him, as I'm leaving to hit my next stop. The next day, the manager approached me when I came in that store for my stop again, and asked if I was rude to a tallish man with a loud voice. I explained our brief encounter, and the manager replied that he himself had the honor of explaining what vendors are to Mr. Blabs, and not to worry about it, that these uppity types occasionally reduce themselves to stopping in amongst the heathen, to get whichever item their usual uppity store, I stock those too, is out of, and then proceed to trample the peasants in this path and raise fist and chin to the air for not getting flawless service. The manager told the blabbermouth to treat all of the vendors just like any customer because they don't have knowledge of the store, as they just stock their one section. With the way these incredulous types view the regular patrons as gutter trash already, that might not account for much. But cheers to him for sticking up for me, at least. And that brings us to the end of today's video. Big thanks to everyone who allowed me to use their stories. If you'd like to support the channel, you can do so by signing up for my Patreon page, which is linked in the description. $1 or more a month is just pay what you feel, get you early access to all the videos on Monday at once. There is also a link to my merchandise store on Teespring, as well as various social media links like Discord and Threads and so on. I think that's everything. Yep. So let's move on to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is, what is the most confusing thing you've come across in a supermarket? I hope this is relatable. I was in Lidl the other day. I was looking for beetroot and gherkins, like sliced gherkins for burgers. I'm one of those heathens that likes that. And they don't have either of them. Then I realized they've never had them, at least not in my local. And I just don't understand a store. I understand a store selling out, like for example my local Aldi, which I don't go into too often, but I have bought them out of there before and I was going to pick them up earlier in the week. They just sold out. Happens they have both sold out of both the items I needed. But Lidl's never had them. So is there anything that you think a local store of yours should stock that it seems very obvious that they would stock because it's a popular, well-selling item that they just don't? Let me know what you think in a comment below. And before we go, we'll take a look at the answer of the day from a previous video. And this one came from Idiots in the Wild 207, possibly it just went live as recording this. And it's, do you have any little quirks or things you add to sayings that are probably funny to only you, but you do it anyway because it makes you chuckle? And today's answer comes from, let's see, Melinda Dawn 5. Whenever anyone would say, "What's up?" I'd say, "The sky" or "the ceiling," depending on whether I was inside or outside when asked. I can't remember if I started doing this in middle or high school, but it went on until recently. I'm 39 now. May as well just continue with it. Yeah, I'm 39 now. Don't change a habit of a lifetime. Maybe 9 or 10 years ago when I stopped leaving the house completely in an attempt to avoid danger. Mostly the danger that is other stupid people, especially stupid people in large groups. Which, no, it didn't really work. Stupid people, mostly strangers, somehow still managed to make their way up my front porch, take a seat, and proceed to tell me their life story while ruining my peaceful me time. Another thing I do is, instead of saying moron, I say, what a maroon. To comment about your thing, I similarly do the pepper thing. Whenever I hear assault, like in true crime videos, I ask out loud about the pepper or make a stupid comment about wanting to hear someone get charged with peppering. Until out of nowhere, people in videos started saying, "I liked peppering of," after never hearing the phrase from any YouTube video. I do the pepper thing in my head now. Even though that's not going to stop the EEG brainwave reading from Google and Google connected apps. Thank you very much for your answer, Melinda Dawn. And that brings us to the end of today's video. Although hopefully not the end of recording today, because I'd like to get some extra done. I'm not even going to apologize for the barking dogs. For some reason, the dogs are having a great old time today, but I think they're far enough away that the mic's not picking up. The noise gate should be working, so that should be fine. Although I kind of hope when I was recording the neighbours' videos, a lot of which were dog-themed, I hope some of them got picked up for that. Free sound effects. Anyway, until next time, I'm going to head off for now. I think I need a cool drink. Thank you very much for watching. Take very good care of yourselves. Oh dear.